Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So good morning and good afternoon to all of our European colleagues, and welcome everyone to our webinar, The Future of Service Excellence, End-to-End Service Transformation. This is the third in a series, and you can find the others on our VASS YouTube channel, which will be sent out in a follow-up email as a reminder after this session. Today, I'd like to introduce our expert panel first. So we have Surajit Ghosh, also known as SG, Chief Expert in AI Black Belt, ISG, Amit Venugopal, Managing Director for VASS, and Sandeep Parameshwaran, Enterprise Architect for VASS. So welcome to the team. Thank you for being here and providing your expertise to us today. We do have a full agenda today that will include quite a few things. First of all, we'll include how businesses are approaching service, how SAP is prepared to meet those new processes with enhanced end-to-end functionality, demos of the system, and then best practice architecture. But first, to kick off our session, we'll start with a short roundtable discussion anchored around SAP's service strategy and how VASS supports it. So let's start with SG. So SG, I'd love to hear from you SAP's viewpoint on the future of service, specifically outcome-based service, and why are equipment manufacturers moving in that direction?
Thank you, Jody, and welcome everyone to this amazing. We have a lot of content planned up for you, so looking forward to this whole discussion. So, I think this picture tells a lot. Think about service as two sides of the same coin, and the coin is providing that wow customer delight, customer experience, and a customer for life kind of a program. So service historically, if you look at most of our customers, would focus a lot on operational efficiency. But over a period of time, we've seen service organizations transform themselves into a revenue center and aspects of even subscription contracts or service contracts and creating a revenue stream for the organization and also bolstering the sales of the sales organization by providing that customer for life. Given that, the two sides of the coin is on one hand, you have the classical end to end service, which is customer service, field service, and the other side of the coin is the asset management. So, in many of the heavy equipment industries or even services which is related to lightweight consumer products, deliverables like white goods, you are looking at the entire asset. It could be a non-registered product, it could be a registered product, it could be an install base and a very detailed equipment. It could be even a massive data center kind of a processes. We see these two coming together to solve outcomes. Now, what do I mean by outcomes? I think there's a talk track if somebody can go on mute. Thank you. So I would say the outcomes which we are trying to help our customers is outcomes related to transforming their end experiences. So one, for example, we are seeing a trend is customers moving into solution offers. So what do I mean by that? On one hand, it's no longer just good enough to just sell sales or just sell services, but package that in the form of a bundle, provide that as a subscription, provide AI as a service and value added services and monitoring services. So we see, and you'll see that later on in the session today, a concept of solution business model and coming together to solve the end services. So that's the future of service from an SAP perspective, where we look at really solving on one hand the lightweight omni-channel end customer personalized experience when let's say a customer calls up to the call center or sends an email or access a knowledge base, and how do you engage with that. But on the other hand, how do you go about connecting that with the downstream with field service repair and asset management and so on, right? So it's a holistic way we look at the end-to-end service execution, and that's where our customers also expect those kinds of end-to-end solutions from SAP.
Great. Thanks, SG. So Amit, building on what SG just said, have you seen real world examples of what he's been talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, SG. Thanks, Jody. Outcome-based service is, a movement in equipment manufacturing industries, maybe other industries as well, but definitely in equipment manufacturing industries where, you're creating large capital equipment, which can tend to be expensive for a customer to buy. And for many, many years, that's what companies did, right? They sold capital equipment and then they provide service contracts or maintenance contracts, and customers pay for, they own the equipment, and then they also have to pay for service. One example is of a medical device company that we've worked with for many years and helped them transform their business. And it's an ongoing transformation at this company. They have moved, from selling capital equipment to hospitals, um, and not 100% moved, but now they are providing hospitals with, other options. One is leasing, right? So the ability to lease the equipment, but within that lease, they bundle in services, they bundle in some instruments and accessories, they bundle in, of course, the equipment itself, and the hospital in this case has to just pay one price, which is the lease price, but it includes all of these services. So for the company to, this med device company to be profitable with this kind of an offer, they have to obviously create a lot of reliability on their equipments. They have to have more proactive maintenance so that they can actually predict when something is, about to fail, and they can try and fix those issues in advance versus, break fix in the past where, a ticket is created by a customer calling in or some other means. So reducing the cost to serve is very important in outcome-based service because you're bundling all of this in. The second example is also in the same company. They're moving to a subscription model where you can pay a subscription fee, essentially in this case usage based, because you use the equipment a certain number of times and you pay a certain fee for that use. But it again bundles in services, bundles in maintenance, and it bundles a certain amount of accessories as well. We also have another equipment manufacturer. In this case, it's a company that builds cranes that are used to, um, uh, basically build some of the tallest buildings in the world. And these cranes are, not necessarily purchased by the construction company, right? These cranes are assets that are owned by the crane manufacturer and installed at a particular, construction site for the purpose of building that building. And once that's done, they take the crane apart and then move it to the next location. But in this very moment that it is being used by this one construction company, everything is bundled in there. In this case, it's assets owned by the crane manufacturer, so it's really an asset management heavy, operation. But at the same time, the construction company is not paying for maintenance separately from the cost of, the actual, usage of the crane. So this is again kind of an outcome-based bundle that the crane manufacturer is offering to construction companies, versus in the past it would be really project-based, services. So we see this move, and SAP solutions here, do a pretty good job of helping customers move in that direction.
Great. Thanks, Amit. And then Sandeep, building more on that, what are the solutions at play when someone is trying to do an end-to-end service transformation?
Yeah, thank you, Jody. And thank you, Amit and SG, for talking through the outcome-based services. And what I would like to highlight here is what is SAP bringing to the table, right, for being able to achieve this. So when we talk about end-to-end service management, there are basically three key aspects of it. There is the customer engagement, there is the operational processes, and of course the field execution, right? So SAP offers a suite of interconnected solutions here, which basically enables businesses to deliver exceptional service in all of these three areas. Let's start with customer engagement. So on the slide that you're seeing, to the left, you see Service Cloud. So SAP Service Cloud is your enhanced customer engagement solution that provides a central platform for your frontline support, like your front office agents, to manage customer interactions. It could be complaints, it could be inquiries, it could be service requests, where they can reach out for support through any channel, like phone or email, chat, etc. Right? It provides a comprehensive case management module that is capable of handling different varieties or different types of case flows, and also includes capabilities to automate and route these cases or escalate them for faster and efficient resolution, within your teams or to other teams as well, from a workflow management standpoint. The solution also offers like real-time insights. We're talking SLAs like response times, resolution times, agent performance, etc. So you can, improve the productivity and improve your customer experience. Next, let's look at how you manage operations, right? So in the middle of this slide, you see S/4HANA Cloud. Now, S/4HANA is the backbone of your service management. You can think of this as the digital core that kind of orchestrates and integrates with these other solutions to manage all your service-related operations. So this is a solution that you want to have for your back office team so they can create and manage and track service orders or repair orders, warranties, maintenance tasks, service contracts, you name it, right? And S4 Service Management module that is part of the core S4HANA suite is also integrated into the other areas of S4HANA, like procurement and logistics, for example, to ensure a timely service delivery or service fulfillment. It is also integrated into accounting as well as controlling, for example, to allow for billing and invoicing of your services that are performed. And then, of course, the final piece in the puzzle is your field execution, right? This is where SAP Field Service Management comes into play. So Field Service Management is the solution that provides the necessary tools to plan and execute the field work. The solution uses AI specifically to assign the best matching technician based on skills and location and availability and so on and so forth. And it also has AI capabilities for, let's say, optimizing the route of technicians to improve productivity. All of these are delivered out of the box by SAP, and it enables your technicians to access all their work orders, checklists or instructions and equipment history, so on and so forth, from a mobile device that works completely offline, right? So the app allows technicians to provide status back to the office, complete the checklist, provide feedback, record the consumption of materials, and so on and so forth. And we'll see that in the demo in a little bit. The solution also offers tools to manage contingent workforce. So if you're localized and you want to work with partners in other areas to provide service to your customers, then there is also a portion of the solution that you can use to make this work. So as you can see, when combined, these three solutions basically provide a holistic and cohesive service management end-to-end workflow, where SAP Service Cloud captures and tracks these customer interactions as they come in and pass them seamlessly over to S4HANA for managing those work order operations, right? And S4HANA ensures that the work orders align with logistics, with financials, and any kind of inventory needs for that particular job. And while SAP FSM, obviously ensures the timely planning and delivery of the work that is required out in the field. I hope that gives you an overview of all the solutions that SAP brings to the table for an end-to-end service management.
Great. That was very helpful, Sandeep. Thank you. So now, SG, I'm going to bump it over to you for us to get into the functionality and the architecture.
Awesome. So I think picture speaks more than 1,000 words. So it's important we have a quick peek into what can be an end-to-end flow. And been doing this for 2 decades. The processes and service can go into any kind of flow. So probably this is one flow, but you might have a scenario where a flow might be even starting from a maintenance plan and a work order, or you have a predictive maintenance and you trigger the service from there. But in this demo flow, what I'm going to take you through is a very powerful and end-to-end process flow. Let's say an omni-channel customer service. So a customer comes and creates a request in collaboration with, let's say, the call center agent, and then the case management happens. The service order is created, which is getting fulfilled now in the backend system, and a field service dispatch happens, and then the field service engineer goes and executes the work order. So that's kind of the flow. Let me get into the live system. So what I'm showing you here is SAP Service Cloud. I'm going to come back to this system again to show more detailed examples of it. But as of now, from a demo perspective, let's start with the scenario where, let's say, a customer is calling. And let's say I'm simulating a call here. Now, what happens is if you are a call center agent, immediately you're able to look at that particular customer. On the left hand side, if you see that it's a beautifully designed a widget technology wherein build on a microservice driven architecture behind the scenes. So what's happening is you can plug and play and design the experience the way you want to for your organization. In this case, you have the account details on the left hand side, and you see this customer Joe will this part of Cbond, and you see the entire interaction of the timeline of this particular customer. And on the right hand side, you can have your interaction logs and say customer is worried or something like that. And you can start engaging with that customer in that manner. Now, to keep it simple, I'm going to go ahead and from this particular scenario, as I said earlier in the demo process flow, going to create a case. Now, in that case, I'm going to just simply say it's a case type standard at the bottom. And I'll say, let's say the pump, let's say pump is not starting, let's say, for example. And causing excessive heating. Now, if you realize a lot of is happening behind the scenes, there is automatic routing which is happening, there is assignment which is happening, there is prioritization, and there are workflows, there is AI behind the scenes. I'll come back to all of this later. But you can also start using AI to actually help you in this engagement. So let's say this particular customer's case has oft been repeated. So here I am using as a service agent. I'm starting to call our AI assistant. We brand it as Joule. And this is part of, let's say, the SAP CX AI toolkit. Let's say this is a very similar case to what happened earlier. So I'm kind of querying the data and saying, okay, this is regarding overheating pumps. And the case background, and let's say I want to dispatch an engineer from this. I want to make the length long. And what you're doing is you're giving these very powerful generative AI capability to the service agent to start creating a case overview in context to a particular case with metadata coming from your service cloud system grounded in that particular context, right? You can copy this here, you can then go ahead and paste it, and you can go ahead and save and open the case. So what I did here, just to going back to the demo flow, is a call came in and I was able to manage the case, right? Now I'll come into the next process of, let's say, creating a service order. Now, again, I'll come back to this later on. I'll keep it simple here. Let's say from a demo flow perspective, the case is such that the customer needs to have a service order execution. So for this particular customer, if you're well aware with what happens in the ERP, you have your equipment master, your equipment hierarchy. So here I select that particular hierarchy of the product. It identify, let's say, certain service parts in service cases and switches and so on. And then from here itself, let's say I say service order 31. And what you're doing here is, again, very powerful integration happening behind the scene when it comes to involved parties and sales areas and identification of the equipment and so on. And once you're doing that, what this is doing is it's going ahead and creating a service order in the ERP system. While that is happening, as a service agent, you might need other tools for that particular customer. So let's say you can say, for example, you want to create an account summary or you want to create a knowledge base article. So you can start using your AI assistant as and when the discussion goes in. But if you realize right now what's happened is there is a service order which has been created. Now, a process flow can deviate from here. Like what I mean by that is this service order in many organizations is a level 2 support, where the level 2 engineer or the service operations team takes that particular service order in S4, for example, and they start working on that. And I'll come back to this later, right? But from a simple flow perspective, I have created the service order. Now what we'll do is we'll try to do a quick field service dispatch. So I'm going to click on next. We're looking at the, let's say, the map view of that particular customer. And then based on that map, you're going to start creating the service request. Once that service request is dispatched and created, then what happens is it gets triggered to the field service engineer. So now let's say I am a field service engineer who is on site or on the road, and Sandeep is going to go a more elaborate demo of this. But I have now my assignment here. Right now I'm using my laptop as the Windows app, but the same thing is available as, let's say, an iPhone and so on app. And the design parameters is absolutely optimized for the service engineer to work on. So from here, let's say that same assignment which came, you start going ahead and confirming your work, you start doing your travel, you start booking your time. And from here, like you can go ahead and start looking at your checkout details of the work items you need to do. You can start creating a new service request or create a new expense item. You can add and create a follow-up assignment to that, and you complete basically your work order, right? So that's essentially, each of these topics obviously is very detailed, but I wanted to show you in 5 minutes the power of an end-to-end flow from an integration standpoint when it comes to omnichannel service, case management, service order, field service dispatch, and work order execution. All right. Now, having said that, if I look at the end-to-end service architecture, we saw a brief summary of this, but at a very high level, an architecture should always be aligned to your business strategy, right? So based on our experiences, we've seen typically these are the three broad strategic transformation, which even at the level of CEO, a lot of times they are looking at service as a big differentiator for themselves in the industry. So from an end-to-end service experience to minimizing operating cost to having a customer for life and value fulfillment. Now the key here is your service strategy has to link with your service data. So whether it is customers 360 or your case management or your service orders, your field repairs, service contracts, maintenance plans, in-house repair, warranty, registered products, and asset management. Some of the most important Lego blocks of service data, whether it comes to data systems or processes. Now, at the heart of it are these three personas, which we explained earlier, which is your customer service persona, your service operations persona, and your field service persona. And then from a downstream perspective, architecturally, all of these data thus has to speak to each other. All of these experiences which you have, which has to speak to each other. And you saw that in the demo 5 minutes back, right? Which is an end-to-end flow where the data is talking to each other, the process is talking to each other, and the three applications, which is the SAP Service Cloud, the SAP S4 Service, as well as the SAP Field Service Management is talking to each other. The advantage with this, and probably, this is out of scope for today's call, but probably in a later meeting, we'll take you more deeper into the self-service aspect of it, where how can you allow your customers to engage with your service engagement industry through B2B portals, knowledge management, as well as using AI. And then from a downstream perspective, the key is, let's say when you're doing an operational process or you're doing a service execution, have you connected that to your supply chain? Have you connected that to your operating margin and figuring out, is this service you're providing profitable or not? And then, as I said earlier in this call, are you able to deliver services could be the software, embedded software in a particular machine, or in professional industry, let's say a software package which the customer has to access through cloud, bundle with actually a physical equipment and your professional services. Can all of that be working together? So you saw that in the demo, you saw this in the architecture slide, how all of this be able to work together. Now, what I'll do is I'll kind of switch hats from an end-to-end perspective and go a little bit deeper into the customer service persona. So I'm going to go back and
SG,
showcase to you. Yeah,
we had
sure.
a question really quick before you move
Yeah.
on to the next section. So
Yeah.
they wanted to know, is this order created in S4 using Mashup, or are we creating it in Service Cloud?
So the depending on the S4, it's a very long answer to this question, because you have three different versions of S4, right? You have S4 on-prem, you have S4 private cloud, and you have S4 public cloud. There are different integration scenarios built for each of them. So at a technical level, we are leveraging business technology platform as the API middle management layer, which will integrate to the relevant S4s in the behind the scene. Now, depending on the orchestration, you might have to have the master data mapping, which is happening through cloud platform integration in BTP. And then via mashup, you're able to actually have that unified experience. So what I showed you in the demo was an S4 screen embedded inside Service Cloud, and the integration was built between the two applications using BTP, if that helps.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Now, if I go back now to Service Cloud, so let's go back to the screen where we began this session, right? I'm going to spend just few minutes in this. Our ask would be, we are happy to come back and engage with you on a more detailed level on each of these. But the way we have designed it is you have your operational business processes on the left-hand side, and you have your agent desktop, and you have your cases, service orders. You can go ahead and look at your install base, warranties, self-service, service quotes, and so on. But if I go back to, let's say, cases. Now, this was the case which I started working on. So I'll go back to that particular case. Now, a lot is happening on the screen, and necessarily so, because in the world of customer service, you need a lot of data for your persona, very easily accessible and easily navigational. So on one hand, you saw this earlier, where the service level agreements was automatically understood by the system. Similarly, if you see the product support, if you see there is a bulb here, right? This was allocated by AI, right? So depending on the text, which was the pump not starting and causing excessive heating, not only the AI then picked up and said, okay, this seems to be under the category of product support and hardware issue. It is also picking up the relevant knowledge bases. It's also picking up the similar cases, and this is the percentage mapping for based on that particular score. Similarly, you can start using AI, let's say, when you're responding to that particular customer via an email. You can start looking at various prompts, right? And you can look at templates, you can look at a particular support channel. But very importantly, you can start looking at AI and say, okay, using a prompt engineering, this is, let's say, case status update email. You can pick up the style, tone, and you can generate a draft and use that as a composition of an email. Now, these are the advantages which we now see as a complete transformation of experiences. Not only that, let's say I showed you earlier, for example, let's say our CXAI toolkit as an example, wherein you can look at all the smart actions and all the tools which can be done. Like, for example, let's say the customer over the last 60 days or and so on has sent you emails. Based on that email, the AI can actually pick up what is the work which needs to be done and what are the actions. Let's say you have an Azure blob storage knowledge base, pick up that information from case and use that to actually solve that problem for that particular customer. Then similarly, let's take a custom AI tool, right? So let's say this is something which is not standard by SAP, But as an end user, you don't need to do that. Your admin can create a custom AI tool. Like, let's say we want to actually look at a particular case where that same overheating pump, but now for that particular case, we want to do a root cause analysis and the categorization of the case. What we've done here is using generative AI, we are able to look at the master data, use a custom AI tool using CXAI toolkit, understand the case, and based on understanding the case, figure out what is the category of the equipment failure and what it does. So over a period of time, you will see these fantastic two solutions working very powerfully to truly transform the customer service experience. On one hand, I showcase to you Service Cloud, wherein you're able to do the end-to-end customer service connected to both S4 as well as, let's say, FSM and the other non-SAP data. Bring in that omni-channel service and work to help you scale, given the power of this platform. On the other hand, you also saw some examples of how we are using generative AI for CX, using a CX AI toolkit in order to help the customer service agent as they progress. With that, I think I'll hand it over back to you, Sandeep, where we can start looking at more from a field service management perspective. Let's say once the customer service is able to work on the case and transfer it over to field service agent, what will that person do over a period of time?
Thank you, SG. All right, so let's Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about how you are able to effectively plan and execute the field work that we just received from your from your customer support team because they identified that somebody needs to be on site to look at this issue and fix it, right? So we're talking about field service management. Now, this is the solution. As you can see here, it's a quick overview of what is included with the solution. You might think it is just a field support solution, but in reality, it's much more than that, right? So it has certain components like self-service, for example. There is a self-service component where your customers can look at service requests, handle appointments, reschedule appointments, and look at the ETA of a technician when he's en route for the work. There is obviously the planning and dispatching component that is core for any field office personnel to make sure they are up to date with the schedules for their team. And then the mobility solution, which is the most important aspect for your technician to be able to be anywhere where there is no network coverage and still be able to execute the work that is assigned. And then, of course, I mentioned this before, there is also a crowd service or contingent workforce management module that is also part of field service management that allows you to reach out to your partners and extended support teams outside your organization to be able to provide service. There's a whole partner portal and other things, but we're not going to show all that today. We're going to stick to the story that we were talking to you about. How do we take, let's say, a break fix or an install request or something where you need to dispatch a technician with the right skill sets to be able to complete the job. All right. Let's jump into the system. What you're looking at is the planning board, the planning and dispatching board. Right. So I'm right now a dispatcher in the back office, and I'm looking at my team over here on the board. You can see all the technicians that are assigned to my team, and then the list of all the jobs that are waiting to be scheduled, right? So whenever there is a new job, I am notified. You can look at this notification bell on the top, and it tells me, okay, new work orders received or work orders completed. So all these kind of alerts can be displayed to the office staff, so they are aware of what's happening in the field and whether new requests are coming in, and so on and so forth. Any new request will fall into this list, the bucket that you see at the bottom, right? And from a planning standpoint, it's very simple. You just drag and drop. You can see the availability of the technicians on the board, and basically just do that, and you're done. You've assigned a job to a technician, right? So it's as simple as that to make an assignment, which we, as you see, it's a manual assignment. So you need to know that here, for example, Tom is available, if he has the right skills, etc., and all that. So in the background, there is a lot of things that are happening, right? The system is checking when I drag and drop whether Tom has the right skills. Is he available, etc. And if it is not, then it's going to pop me up a message saying that, hey, you're trying to assign a job to a person who doesn't match the skills that are required for the job, right? So where is all this information, right? So from a job, you can see on the right, when I select a job here, all the different information that are associated with this job, right? So this is a repair service. I can see the customer information, contact information, etc. I can see, for example, what equipment is affected. I can add additional notes to the technician. I can, most importantly, see the different dates that I need to adhere to, right? So this needs to be completed by November 19th, which is today, by 4 p.m. And then the duration of the job is planned to be 1 hour, right? It can be more, it can be less, but we'll see that as we go through the demo. And then, of course, where is this located, right? So I have a map view of the location of this particular equipment where the job needs to be executed, right? So I have all that information and then much more. So I know there are certain skills that are required. So this facility might, you might need to handle some hazardous materials maybe. So you need to carry a PPE, and then you need a dispensing system certificate, or it could be any kind of other skills. It could be visa requirements, whatever you want to tag as necessities to be able to fulfill this job can be a skill in the system, right? Of course, there are other things in here like tools. If you want to say that, okay, in order to fix this issue, you need to carry a laptop because after you do the maintenance, you have to take some measurements and stuff. So you need to carry a laptop. That could be a tool requirement, and we can handle all that in the system as well. One of the other important things that I want to show is smart forms, right? So as a planner, if I'm sending somebody on site and I want them to, let's say, specifically complete a checklist or take certain measurement readings for my pump, for example, right? I can have smart forms or these checklists created in the system and assigned to the job so they can complete this in the mobile app. We'll see an example as well as we go to the technician's persona. All right, so the one more thing that I want to show here from a job standpoint is, let's look at the details. You can pull up the details of the service call. Now, in ERP or in S4HANA, this is essentially your service order, right? So this is your service order and whatever you plan over there. So if you have, if you already know that certain materials are required for this job, you can add them or create reservations for these materials in ERP. And then those materials are available here. So this particular job is regarding a card reader that is not working, and we probably need to replace that card reader. And I have got this FlexPay. It's a card reader as a reserved material that needs to be used for this particular job, right? So let's take a look at the board now, right? So we know what details you can see when it comes to a particular job. Now, with respect to the availability of technicians, this board gives me a complete view for a week or even up to 4 months or even up to a year. It's configurable, my schedules for the team, right? I can see PTOs, I can see customer meetings, or any kind of exclusive reservations that you have for your technicians can be made visible on this board, so you know whether to plan somebody for a job at that time or not, right? And in addition to that, of course, you can, for example, highlight one of these technicians and get easy access to what skills they have, which region are they servicing, and so on and so forth, right? So you basically have all this information, and then finally you can filter right? You can filter for these technicians and the entire board based on all these. So if I am a planner only operating in a specific branch of your company, which is in the East Coast, for example, right? I can set up those branches or territories, however you want to call it, right? And be able to filter the entire board to show only things that are relevant for me, right? Okay, so all this is manual for that you have seen so far. So let's say, I want to be more efficient and I want the system to help me decide who is the right technician for a particular job, right? So it's as simple as saying, okay, find me some matching technicians for this job, right? So I just right click and clicked on a button and it gives me a ranked list of all the different technicians that are fit to do this particular job, right? And it marks them as the best option, best alternative, alternative 1, 2, 3, etc. Based on what? Based on many factors, right? So this is where the product shines as well, is that SAP provides out of the box certain parameters based on which you can decide who to send for a particular job. Maybe the job requires somebody on site immediately, right? Regardless of the skill, the customer is mad, and then you want to go by distance, right? Fastest to get to the site. So you would use distance policy. Maybe it is only based on skills because it requires specific skills. And in that case, I'm going to use skills as the policy. And it's telling me Tom is the only qualified technician in your team who can handle this particular job, right? So as a planner, I have all these different options to decide based on the scenario how I want to dispatch my my technicians for a particular job, right? And once I have that, of course, you can see additional details. What are the matching skills? What are the missing skills? How soon can they get there? How far away they are from that job site, so on and so forth, right? So this is where the AI is playing its role in making sure that you find the best technician for a particular job. And it, of course, doesn't stop there, right? So let's go ahead and assign this job, for example, to Tom. You could always assign from here as well. There are different ways to assign it. But then once you have assigned the job, maybe you're more of a visual person, right? And then you want to see, okay, I want to see what Tom's schedule looks like from a map view, right? And of course, we support that as well. In solution, you can look at the route for Tom for the day. And then it's possible also from within the map to, let's say, there might be other jobs that are popping up, right? In and around where Tom is headed for the day. And then you can assign those jobs right from here within the map, right? So here, as you can see, I can see all these other jobs in here at the same site. And apparently Tom is headed there. So I could make a decision from here whether to assign this job to Tom or not, right? So I can simply drag and drop this demand into Tom's calendar if I want to, right? So it's as simple as that to easily manage your resources time from a map view as well. All right. Going back. And then, of course, finally, let's take one of these demands before we head over to the mobile lab. Let's say, this particular demand requires a tool, and then I wanted to make sure that you can see, for example, here I'm saying a laptop. You need to carry a laptop because you need to take some measurements and stuff, right? Once I add that laptop, I can reserve this particular tool. So when I make a reservation, what it means is if I try to use this tool for another job that overlaps with this time, then the system is going to say, hey, this tool is already reserved for this other job. So you'll have to move either the job or find another tool, right? All right. So right now, what we can do is we can release this assignment. So what I have been doing is I've been planning the jobs to the various technicians, right? All this time, and then I can now release it. So till now, the technician hasn't received anything on his mobile app, but once I release this assignment, he's gonna get notifications saying that, hey, you have new jobs assigned. All right. Now I'm gonna switch to my phone to show you the technician's perspective real quick. All right. Okay, I think you can all see my screen now. And as you can see here,
We see your phone, I think.
Yeah, we see your screen, Sandeep.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Sandeep.
Yeah. So this is I'm on my phone, and I'm going to pull up the field service management mobile app that the technicians are going to use. Right. So the same app that SG was showing earlier on the Windows laptop, we have a similar app for iOS platform. That's what I'll be showing. There's also an app for Android platform as well. So you could use either of these. So you can see here, there is certain, you can send an SMS as a notification. You can notify the technician via email. You can also have push notifications that you see here, like new activity released, right? So these are notifications that I just received when I assigned those jobs to Tom, right? So I tap on those notifications, and then it downloads everything from the cloud and makes it available locally in your device on the app, right? So now you can go offline. If you have no network coverage, then you have still access to all the information related to that job, right? So this is my job. Let me just step back to the home screen, right? So when you log in as a technician, you see the home screen with all the different jobs that are assigned for you for that particular day in the order that you want to visit, right? So I have my first job at 7-Eleven at that particular address, and I can see from this card that it is a repair service and it's a maintenance order, and there is a danger visual sign that tells me that, okay, there might be some hazardous situations. I need to prepare for that, right? I can see the equipment. There is a note for me to look at the, go and meet the site manager before I, start work. So I have all the information here. I can tap into that and get more information about that job. I can go into, for example, the equipment and look at the equipment history, which is a big thing in the perspective of a technician to know what the equipment has gone through. Has there been service calls? Has there been repairs, installations, maintenance activities performed, etc.? So I have access to all of that information right here in the mobile app at my fingertip, right? The same goes for a customer as well. So from within here, you pretty much have access to all that you need to decide if or prepare for the job that you need to go to, right? So let's go through the workflow, right? So what FSM provides is a workflow so that there is an organized way your technicians are going about completing certain types of activities, right? So in this particular case, the first thing is, can I do the job or not? So I can accept or reject a job, right? And then before I hop on the truck to go to the site, I can hit travel button, which is going to start the timer for my travel to site. And all of these workflow steps that I confirm is going to be reflected on the board for your office. So they know that, okay, I am in this particular stage of my execution, right? Of course, you can navigate through any map, Apple or Android, Google Maps. Let's go back. And then once I'm on site, I indicate that I'm ready to start my work, and then the system automatically prompts you to confirm the travel time, right? So you can confirm the travel time, you can override it. So we have all that flexibility built in, right? And then once I am there, the system is telling, hey, these are the work items that you need to complete. You need to complete a smart form, that is the instructions with the, any kind of EHS for health and safety reasons. These are the reserved materials that you need to use. So I start my work, I finish it, and then I come back here and I can indicate that, okay, I have used this particular part, right? If I haven't used it, I can return it as well. saying I'm taking this back to stock, right? So I indicate that I used one quantity of that card reader, I replaced it. And then of course, the smart form, right? So I can go through a safety smart form. It can be embedded with, as you can see, you will see different things are getting calculated or dynamically shown or hidden based on what I choose. So all of this is possible within the smart form, right? So you can mark things as mandatory, for example. And then, of course, you can take photos of the hazardous situation or the equipment and whatever you want to do, right? Right. And then let's go to the next. You can have procedures embedded in here, right? So what you're seeing here is the procedure from, let's say, Gilbargo to replace your card reader, right? So you can embed documents within a checklist or procedures within a checklist on how to perform a particular maintenance operation, etc. Right? You can do calculations, so on and so forth, right? So I'm not going to go through all of this. Let's go ahead and maybe quickly take a final photo of what the completed work is, right? And of course, you also have an editor if you want to edit this and mark something out specifically, right? And then, of course, you're done at this point. Save that, and then sign off saying, okay, I've done this particular work, it's completed, and I submit that smart form, right? All right, so there are other things in here that you can do. For example, if you want to capture expenses, you can do that. You can capture mileages, for example, if you want to reimburse for mileage because you're using a private car for the trip, you could do that as well. And there are many other things in here, but let's focus on what I want to show particularly is once I'm done with the work, the system is going to tell you, hey, you took 3 minutes for this particular work, for this particular demo. But I can, of course, override it. I can say it was a 1-hour work. And I can, of course, make it chargeable or not chargeable as needed. And then once I'm done, the system will generate for you a service report, right? So this is what you can leave with the customer, get their sign off on, saying that everything checks out. So you can preview this. So let's preview this report, which is going to outline everything that I've captured, like time, expenses, materials that I have used. You can include prices if you want to include that as well. And then, of course, it can also include any kind of checklists and forms that you have completed on the field, right? And then you can ask the customer to sign off that everything looks fine, right? Now, at this point, essentially, you're done with the work. You've done a checkout. And then when you go back to the homepage, you'll see that the job has now disappeared from your list, right? And then you're left basically with the remaining jobs that you have to now travel to next, right? So that's an end-to-end flow from a planning to an execution standpoint. Once this is done, everything that you have submitted, like the materials or the time and the checklist and everything is then sent to S4 HANA on the service order or any kind of follow-up, like goods movements or postings that need to happen into finance, so on and so forth. So these confirmations are automatically created as part of the integration that SAP provides. All right. So at this point, I think I will hand it back to SG for the S4 piece. Thanks.
Yeah. What I'll do is probably just spend 1 minute just to connect the dots with S4, and then I'll hand it over back to Amit. So essentially, S4 we know can do the end-to-end process from a service to cash perspective. If you look at it, for example, some of the key aspects of, let's say, service management, and remember the integrations between the S4 world with both Service Cloud and FSM, right? So on one hand, the service orders, which we saw earlier in the demo, and then the service contract management, along with entire service transactions. If you are getting into, for example, a lot of customers use variant configuration to actually configure the service contracts with equipments. But one important note I want to also bring in is the concept of a solution order in S4. The advantage with the solution order, if you're not aware of it, is it actually looks at the items where you are looking at, let's say, in this case, there is a server, there is an installation service, there is travel charges, installation kit, a cloud software, server support and maintenance, and as well as project items. Imagine a very complex such kind of a service engagement. You are able to do all of that together. So the advantage with the world of S4 is whatever you are doing when it comes to service orders or in-house repairs, as well as service contracts, maintenance plans, subscriptions, finance, and billing, the ability for all of them to work together integrated to the customer service, field service as an end-to-end process. And that's the origin of our discussion, which is the ability to make all of these work together to transform that experience. And Amit will share a couple of thoughts on the architecture from here on, from a process standpoint.
Thank you, SG. So really quickly around, customers that are considering to move from, say, SAP CRM or a legacy, service solution into this future state that SAP is prescribing. As we said, that you have Service Cloud, you have, S/4HANA, could be public cloud, private cloud, or even on-prem, and then SAP Field Service Management. This kind of shows you the flow of the different, solutions, the objects, and how data is fully flowing between these solutions. And this is all 100% supported by SAP BTP integration services. So including the master data exchange that needs to happen between these solutions, as well as the end-to-end transactions that we've just kind of demonstrated and talked about over the last 45 minutes. All of that is supported through the integration solution that SAP provides. So for a CRM on-premise customer moving to the cloud, as we mentioned that, in the past in CRM, you had, all of the functions that you would typically do for front office and back office kind of housed inside of SAP CRM. And some portions of that functionality was delegated to ECC, like the inventory management and reservation of materials. But you had a full-blown in-house repair, a full-blown service contract management, and a full-blown, complaint management solution, all housed in SAP CRM. Now, in the future, when we move into this new architecture, SAP has kept the cloud service component really about customer engagement, right? Case management and managing complex flows when you talk about, engagement with the customer and kind of also exposing it to your portals. Field service management, as you saw from Sandeep, is really the mobile service dispatch and execution solution. And then all of the other functions of order management, inventory, in-house repair, contracts, entitlements, complex, back office operations will be in S/4HANA service management. This is a quick screen of, how the different solutions are mapped, from, CRM service into either Service Cloud or into S/4HANA Service or into SAP FSM. And in the case of portals and B2B, you have a couple of options. There's SAP Build Work Zone for an internal facing portal. There's also SAP Commerce Cloud for external portals, especially if you have the need to, combine self-service with also a purchasing option for your customers. And in terms of how do you move, right? So if you were an SAP CRM customer, or even, coming from Siebel or some other, legacy environment into the cloud, you could do this in either in terms of functionality. So just take, case management as a function and move that, step by step into Service Cloud first. And as a second step, you could do dispatch and, connecting your FSM solution, SAP FSM, with your Service Cloud, and doing schedule and dispatch as a second step. And this is an example of a customer that did it exactly this way, right? So we are really, talking about over here of customers who essentially have various, solutions in place, and they do not necessarily want to do a big bang go live and move everything at the same time. So there's various ways to architect this. And again, it's not one size fits all, but this is again just an example. And a step 3 is to fully replace your on-prem solution, in this case SAP CRM, by Service Cloud FSM, and then at the time that you're doing an S4 transformation, moving your ECC to S4, this all comes together. You could also consider doing an S4 service just as a sidecar. We have customers that do that as well, because they're not really at this moment ready to move from ECC or their on-prem world into the cloud for S4, but they are willing to, consider a sidecar S4 service, and that could also be an option there. In terms of things to consider, definitely think about complexity, especially going from SAP CRM. How many enhancements do you have? How many modules have you deployed? How complex is your installation? And then you look at your project strategy. How impactful is this change to the different user groups that will be using the solution? So it's really important to kind of consider many different things. And I'll leave this away because we're out of time at the moment, but I'll leave this as takeaways of questions that you ask yourselves internally as well. And final, last but not the least, questions around organizational impact. This is really important. This is a transformational engagement. Typically, when you're moving to the cloud, what is the organizational impact of such an engagement, not just to your internal IT team, but all end users that are impacted by this, but also your customers, right? So having said that, I'm going to stop for a moment here and see if there are any last questions. If anyone had any comments or any questions, we're happy to take it now. And I know we're a couple of minutes over time here. Yeah. Otherwise, we can definitely send you the slides. And
yes, we'll send all of this out to everyone after the fact so that you can catch up with it and watch it again. And so, yeah, we'll send everything out to everyone in the next few days.
Great.
Thank you
so
to
much,
everyone.
team. Thanks, everyone. And we will be having more such webinars, and Jody will be in touch in terms of the next ones we're going to do is the B2B portal and self-service as a concept, and then followed by SAP CPQ, which is an important solution when you consider a full landscape of moving away from on-prem to the cloud. So looking forward to you all joining those sessions as well. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
VASS, complex made